Hello, and welcome to Connecting to Your Data in OpenText Analytics Designer. Today we will cover the OpenText Analytics architecture, how to connect to multiple data sources, how to visually join multiple data sources to build in-memory data objects, and how to use a data object. OpenText Analytics provides solutions for all your analytic and reporting needs. Let's take a look at the OpenText Analytics architecture. We break it down into three main areas: design, deploy, and display. Let's start with deploy. The OpenText Information Hub, iHub for short, is an enterprise-grade deployment server for secure, interactive analytic applications and is the foundation for standalone and embedded applications in the OpenText Analytics product stack. iHub brings information designs to life, making them interactive, personalized, and trackable. The web tier allows you to display your content. Our APIs make it easy to embed visualizations in any app or device. In design, we have the OpenText Big Data Analytics, which is an advanced analytics software solution designed to access, blend, explore, and analyze data. Also in the design area, we have the Analytics Designer, which is used to create content for iHub and set up access to any data store. This is what we will focus on today. If you have not downloaded the Designer, you can go to the following URL to download our free Analytics Designer. The Designer is a modern, integrated development environment based on Eclipse. It provides tools that you can use to connect to data, build and customize report designs, and dashboards. It allows for previewing and debugging. Let's switch over to the Designer. Today we will focus on data objects. For a general overview of the Designer, please see our first video in this series. Okay, so you might be asking, what is a data object? A data object contains all the information necessary to connect to external data sources, retrieve data from the data source, and structure the data in a way that supports business analysis. Data objects are similar to data marts, which are simplified repositories of data gathered from corporate data sources and designed to address specific business queries. Data architects or report developers create data objects to provide data for the following items: dashboards, which users create using a dashboard application on iHub or developers can create in the Designer; reports that are created using either Analytics Designer or Analytics Studio on iHub. When deployed, data objects use iHub's in-memory analytics technology, which loads data in memory to speed up processing. So let's create a data object. So we just select our project, and we can say File, New, Data Object, and we'll give it a name. As you can see, a data object is a collection of the following: data sources, data sets, data models and data cubes, shared dimensions for data cubes, and report parameters. A data object can include any number of these. Although it is possible to create a single data object that contains all the data dashboard users or report developers could possibly need, a data object that provides too much data can be confusing for users. In addition, the amount of memory that a data object uses increases with the number of data rows returned by the datasets and the number of aggregations calculated by cubes. If creating data objects for a diverse group of users or reports, you should evaluate how best to organize data into data objects and how much data to include in each data object. Okay, let's get started building our data object. As you can see, we have data sources here. So we're going to create a couple data sources. So we'll say new data source. And you can see out of the box we have a wide range of data sources to connect to. We can even use data objects as a data source. So we'll give this one a name, because in this case we're going to use the JDBC data connection for Query Builder connect to a MySQL backend. We'll choose Next. We'll select the MySQL from the available JDBC drivers and choose Next and set up where we want it to go. And in this case, I've taken our classic models database, an older version of that, and put it into MySQL. So we need to give it the username. We'll just use root and the password for that. And then we'll want to test our connection. And we see that we can successfully connect. So we'll just choose finish, and we'll create a second connection. In this one, we're going to go to Microsoft SQL database. So we'll choose the JDBC database connection for Query Builder, choose next, and we'll choose SQL Server. Say next, and we'll take the latest driver available. And we're also going to be going to classic models on this. And we can use integrated authentication, or in this case, I'm just going to use username and password. And we'll again test our connection. See that we succeeded, and choose finish. So I've created two data sources. So now I want to write some queries to those. Because I used the Visual Query Builder, I don't actually have to write the query. So the first one is going to be for customer data, and we're going to use MySQL for that. And we'll connect, and we have the Visual Query Builder. So very easily, I have the table I want to use. It's just customers. We'll say OK. And what I mean by this is visual. I don't have to actually write the query. If I was to select different columns in here, I can select those, and we can see that it actually starts to write the query itself. So I'll just unselect those so I can have all the columns available and say finish. I then come up into the dataset editor where I can do different things, and if I look at the outputted columns, I can see all the different columns. A quick little tip here: if you're building data objects and you're going to be using data models for the data like we will in this example, make sure your create index is set to false. So we'll quickly preview the data, and we can see the data came back, so I know the query is successful and does what I want it to do. So we'll say OK. We'll create another data set, and this one is going to be coming from Microsoft SQL, and this is going to be order data. So we'll go ahead and add a couple tables to this. And I want two tables from this. I want orders and order details, so I can select the first one, hold down the control key, and select the next one. Say OK, puts them both in. And I can make the join by just dragging and dropping. If I want to edit that join, it's very easy to do. Specify join type, and you can see I can choose the type of join I'd like to have. Say OK, and finish. And we'll just quickly preview the results to make sure the query runs correctly. And you can see we limit it to 500 records for previewing. So we have all the data there available. So we'll say OK. So I'd like to create one more table. We'll go back to MySQL for this, and this is product data. In this case, we just want to grab the product table, and we'll say OK. Finish. Do a quick preview to make sure the query is correct, and we see all the data. And so we'll say OK. So now I'm going to create a data model. So why would I want a data model over a data cube? I think using a data model as a data source is preferable to using a data cube for the following reasons. Data model queries are optimized and therefore offer better performance. When creating a crosstab, a data model offers more flexibility in the choice of dimensions and measures, and we don't need to pre-aggregate like you do for a cube. So let's create our data model here. And when we open it, we can see it pulls in all three tables automatically. I don't have to worry about how to join them. I can select auto join. It'll ask me how I'd like to join those. I'll say OK. If I had a lot of data sets here, I could end up with maybe a loop join inside there. So I could easily say, hey, detect a loop join. In this case, I don't have one, but if I did, I could fix it here. So we'll say OK. So if I go down here and look in the properties area, I can choose categories. By default, we'll just use the different data sets for the categories, but I could also add and create custom categories if needed. The other nice thing I can do here is if I'm going to be giving this data model inside this data object for people to build dashboards with inside iHub, or using Analytics Studio to build ad hoc reporting, some of the column names might be not very clear to them on what they mean, what they should do. So I can actually rename them to make them a little bit more descriptive and clear. So for example, maybe customer name is a little hard to understand. I want to rename that. I can say rename column, and I can make that a little bit nicer. Very easily to do. So what happens if I need a new column, maybe a computed column? Maybe I don't like first name and last name as separate columns. I want a full name column. I can easily do that by saying new computed column, and we'll give it a name. And choose the data type. In this case, it's string. So I could use any type of calculation if I had other fields I wanted to calculate that maybe were decimal fields. So we're going to quickly give it a JavaScript function, and I'll just choose that I'd like first name, add a space to that in between the first name and the last name, and then just add the last name in there. So if I want to make sure I type this correctly, I can validate that, and we can see that everything's okay. We'll say okay, and I'll just also add the display name to it and say okay. So just like that, I've created all of that, added a new column, made it very easy. But what about if I want a hierarchy for drill up and drill down purposes? That's very simple to do. Just drag and drop. So we'll just quickly create one on location. We'll start with country. We drag that over. It asks for a name. We'll say OK. Then we can just drag and drop state, and we can see it's just making it with just drag and drop city and then postal code. So quickly created a hierarchy, very quick and very easy. Now what about if I wanted to add security to this? I can also do that here if I need security on this. For example, maybe when people use this data, if they're a manager, they should see all of the data, but if they work for in a specific country, they should only see data for that country. I can actually define a security rule. So I can choose define security rule. I'll say new, give it a name, and I'd like it to be at the category level. So I'll just choose customer data, and I'll quickly put in my expression. We have a built-in function called hasUserACL. What this will do is when this is run on iHub, it will look at the user's credentials and other information, what groups they belong to see if it matches up with any of this. So the first one is hard-coded. We're just going to be looking, are they a manager? The next one, we're going to take actually data we want to match up, from the group they're in, what country, to compare it to a data row that's in the data to make sure we only show them data for that. So we can actually do that by just saying customer data, and that has a row called country. So we can add that in. Very quick and easy. And then we can just verify that the expression is good, and it is, so we'll say okay. So just like that, I've now added security into that. And I'm going to get a quick warning here. And it's going to really just saying, do you want to activate the security rules in the data object? I'll say yes. And we're done there. So how can I verify that it did that? I can go back to properties. I can then go back to my component, which is my full data object. Click anywhere inside there and go to advanced, and scroll down and see that enable data security is set to true. So security will be working. So I've got it all set up. So as a developer, how can I verify that it's pulling the data correctly and that security works? Well, I can do that inside the designer. I don't have to actually ship it over to iHub and build a dashboard in iHub and test it and everything like that. I can quickly do it here with just a simple little report. So we'll go ahead and create a new report, and we'll give it a name. And we'll we'll just take a blank report. And remember, the report has to have a data source, so we'll just say I want a new data source. We're going to take a data object as the source, and we'll just quickly browse to that data design file. Say OK. And it's all set up. So I'm not going to use data sets because, remember, I'm using the data model itself. So I can quickly just say use the data object data model, and it will show up here, and I can say OK. So now I'm all set here to try and test this. So I'll quickly go to the palette and drag and drop a table in here. And we're just going to choose 3 columns to do some quick testing here. Say OK. And I can drag and drop the fields I want to test. So the first one I want to test is the full name. Make sure that's working correctly. I'm also going to want to test the country because that has some of the security set. And I also want to know if it goes through and make sure it goes through into the other categories, which really come from a completely different data source. So we'll just choose order date and drag that over. So we'll save it, and then we'll go ahead and test this without security, just view the report. So with the data design, it's going to go back to the database. It's going to make the queries and pull all the data back for me. So I can see it pull all the data back from the 2 different data sources. I have a 75-page report here, and it's not fancy or anything. It's showing all the different order dates in here, but that's okay. It's a test report to make sure my data is coming in cleanly. So now I want to test it with security. I can go to Run, View with Data Security. I'm going to choose the Web Viewer, and I'm going to choose Manager. And so I should really see the same report because Manager can get all the data. So it's going to go back to the back end, query all the data, pull it back, and there we see 75-page report. So we know all the data came across. So now what I'd like to do is test it again, but in this time I want to say a country here. So I'll just say France and say OK. So now it's going to query all the data, but it's going to provide security role into that and say only data that matches France. So we can see that report went down to 8 pages from 75, and I only have data from France. So security is working. So just like that, I built it, tested it to make sure it all works. So there's one other thing I'd like to show about the data design file. The data design says I'll go back to the back end, run the query, and pull all the data. Well, there might be data that doesn't change that much, and do you really want every time a report is run or a dashboard that uses that data design to have to go to the back end? In many cases not. You might want to cache that data. Well, we can do that. We can actually generate the data object, and we can do it in the designer, and that's good for test purposes. So we'll actually create a .data file. What that means is when you generate it, it will go to the back end, pull all that data, and put all that data into the .data file and have it cached there. Once I deploy my data design file onto iHub, I can schedule it to run once a day, twice a day, 4 times a day, whenever I need to actually go grab the data and put it in a data file so it's there available for my users and gives them better performance. I can also design it so it will do incremental updates and only pull back updated information into that data file. So today, in just a few minutes, we learned what a data object is, why you'd want to use one, and then we saw how to build and test the data object. So I'd like to thank everyone for watching. For more information, please visit OpenText.com.